This is On Edge by Angelo Carbone, a new revolution bringing a simple, cool flourish to a powerful magic effect. Is this the best version of the popular card castle plot? Today, we're going to find out. I hope you enjoyed that performance of On Edge. Thank you to Murphy's Magic for sending this product to me to review for you guys. First of all, I'd like to let all Magic distributors and creators know if you'd like me to review your product, please contact me at bffanmail@gmail.com. Without further ado, let's get right into the review. Now, what do you get when you buy On Edge? When you buy On Edge, you will receive this hard cardboard box. It has some nice artwork on the front. Inside the box, you will receive this blue box. It's a bicycle box and some of the gimmicks inside. Inside the box, you get all the gimmicked cards, and they're really heavily gimmicked. But you'll also receive in the bicycle box, two other gimmicked cards, but you'll only use them to practice. You would never perform with them as they have a very visible property. Aside from that, you receive a packet of two more gimmicked cards that you will be performing with. And the gimmick is invisible for those two cards. Finally, you get some material to replace two of the gimmicked cards when they break. In addition to all of the gimmicked cards, you will receive a link and a password to the tutorial on the Murphy's Magic website. The tutorial is downloadable and streamable. Is the method what I thought for this effect? Absolutely not. The method is very, very complicated. Angelo has been meticulously designing every aspect of this effect, and it shows. All of the gimmicked cards, which we'll talk about more shortly, have so many details which all help the effect work beautifully. The method has so many components to it. The method isn't something that spectators will ever be able to reverse engineer, even if they were to suspect some things. Angelo has kept this effect underground for a very long time, so it's great to see it finally come to production. Angelo has been doing some great things this year. He has released 3 effects, all of which I've reviewed. He's done the end book test, which I loved, the demi deck, which is also great, and now this. He's a genius, and check out those reviews, by the way, after this one. What is the quality of the gimmick? The gimmicks are insane. The method is very crazy. Definitely not what I expected. There are so many components of this and so many materials that went into these gimmicks. All of the cards you get are completely gimmicked. The first set of the 2 main gimmicked cards that help with the method, their core piece of the method, those 2 gimmicks, they're ready to go, but only work for practicing because, as I said, the 2 practicing gimmicks have a visible property and they're meant for practicing, just to get down the learning curve for the effect. The second set of the 2 cards is gimmicked as well, but you'll have to gimmick it even more by adding some of the material you get in the On Edge box. The gimmicked cards are all well made. However, some of the materials of the cards may eventually wear out. I think most magicians have the material at home and can just reapply it to the cards. And as for the 2 main gimmicked cards, those may eventually break as they're a bit fragile. However, you will get repairing material in the box, material that you can use to very easily fix the cards, and we'll talk more about that later. The thing is, I found that if you have a certain trick from João Miranda, if you have that, I highly recommend using that material rather than one you get in the On Edge package, as it's much less prone to damaging. I highly recommend that you allow the cards to be very free so your spectators don't think you're hiding anything, as it is completely self-contained. But just handle it carefully and you should be fine. The gel Miranda material will allow you to relax and not worry that the material may break mid-performance. However, everything's well made. The material you get in the box is still very high quality. It shouldn't break as long as you handle it well, but it's just an observation I noticed. But yeah, handle everything carefully, you should be fine. Now, how is the tutorial? The tutorial's great. It's 1 hour and 5 minutes long. Javier Fuemer from the Murphy's Magic Studio is teaching you everything you need to know. He begins by explaining what you get in the box. He then goes through the setup, building the pyramid, magician's point of view performance, not live performance, an alternate ending configuration, setting up the material, different presentations and alternate handling, tips and troubleshooting, and that's all. There are multiple camera angles and the audio and video is good. There is occasional music, but it does not interfere with the tutorial. Javier leaves no stone unturned with this effect. What are the angles like for On Edge? For On Edge, the angles are perfect. You can be completely surrounded 360 degrees. However, you'll want to have some good audience management so audience members aren't just blowing on the house of cards or the house of cards will fall. And once the house of cards falls, you will have to reset everything back into the original position. And that is a bit annoying as it will take some time. There are no gimmicks or anything like that though from your audience's perspective. Even if they're right behind you, they shouldn't see anything. Are there any lighting issues with this trick? I think this depends on the clothing you're wearing, which I'll talk about shortly. There shouldn't be any issues unless there's a very, very bright light shining on the house of cards. However, even if there was a light shining very bright, once the house of cards is built, the method is completely covered by the cards. So no, there shouldn't be any lighting restrictions with the trick. Are there any clothing restrictions for the trick? You don't have to wear any specific clothes to perform the trick. However, you want to make sure there's a 0% chance that anything's visible. So in order to do that, you may not want to wear a white t-shirt. Even if you did, I highly doubt anyone would notice in a real performing environment as the audience isn't looking for it and the gimmick is so small they wouldn't see it. The reason I mention this is because if you're doing a social media performance of this and there were people looking extremely closely to figure out the trick and you're wearing a white t-shirt, they maybe, just maybe, might catch a tiny glimpse of the method. Again, the audience wouldn't be able to reverse engineer the effect even if they did see the glimpse. And it's almost impossible for them to see the method, even if they have great eyes. Therefore, you can wear any clothes, but if you have a white t-shirt, there is an extremely small chance that they may catch on to something. Are there live performances? No, there are no live performances in the tutorial. Now, we're going to talk about the examinability for this trick. The cards, for the most part, are absolutely not examinable. They're all gimmicked, but some are less gimmicked than others, if that makes sense. If you're performing on lay people, 8 of the cards can be examinable. If you're performing on magicians, I don't think you should hand any cards out for examination, as magicians are familiar with this gimmick or property. Normal spectators, on the other hand, should not find any gimmicks. Now, let's talk about the difficulty and practicality of the effect. For the difficulty, this trick definitely has a learning curve. It's not something you practice for an hour or half an hour and then bring out to perform. You'll want to put in some good practice. It'll be different for everyone. There's no sleight of hand required or secret moves. However, building the house of cards is quite knacky. The gimmicks definitely make building the house of cards much, much easier than building a house of cards with regular playing cards. However, it is still going to take some practice. The effect's about an intermediate effect. With enough practice though, anyone, including beginners, could do this trick. One thing I noticed is that it does take for people, especially people who haven't put too much practice into this, a bit of time to set up the house of cards, and the cards may fall while you're setting up or while the routine is going if you handle everything improperly. Also, I noticed that sometimes it takes quite some time to line up the cards perfectly so they don't fall. It is practical, but it does require a close-up pad or a smooth, non-slip surface, like a tablecloth. I think most close-up pads would work. I recently reviewed the Super Sponge Close-Up Mat by TCC. Check that out after this. But the thing is, this On Edge is completely self-contained. There are no attachments to your clothes or anything like that. It would work as long as you have a flat table or flat surface. And one thing is, if you're using a very small table, which I know some performers do, it's possible that the cards fall off the table at the end of the routine, which is probably going to be a nightmare for a performer. Now, is this a social media or real life magic effect? I think this trick would definitely work great on social media, because if you end up messing up the trick and dropping the cards, you can always reshoot the video until you get it right. However, if you just put in the practice to learn the effect, getting the card castle to balance and removing cards is not difficult at all, as long as you follow the instructional video with Javier Fuenmayor. It would work perfectly in real life as well. I feel like you'll have more room for a good presentation of the effect in a real-world performance, like on stage. Is there any DIY with this trick? There is some DIY, but it's easy to do. You'll have to do it multiple times, especially as you're learning the effect, as the material may break as you're beginning to learn the trick. But once you get the hang of it, it'll only take a minute or two, and it shouldn't break as often. Now, how much pocket space is required for the trick? There is some pocket space required. You'll have to carry this blue bicycle box with the cards inside, so the pocket space is about the size of a deck of cards. However, there is a discrepancy with On Edge. People may think they saw more than 13 cards in the stack. However, Javier mentions how to minimize this issue. I've heard some people say that this trick is more like a puzzle than a magic trick, or more of an illusion than a trick. However, I'm not too sure about it. I think this is a very magical trick, especially if you have a nice presentation. It's not really an illusion. It's, if you present it well, what you put into this trick, you'll get out of the trick. Javier does give you a few presentational ideas, like two opposing ideas finding a balance, or finding a balance in a relationship. However, there are so many more ideas you'll be able to think of. I already have thought of quite a few presentations for this. What is the reset like for this effect? This trick does have a reset. You don't just pick up all the cards and put them away. You have to gather them in a specific way. You could probably get away with it in front of your audience if you begin speaking about the next effect. So you can be organizing everything and talking to them and saying, that's the house of cards, make a few jokes, and that's an offbeat moment. Now let's see if the trailer and ad copy are honest. The trailer is pretty honest. There are lots of quotes from amazing magicians who love this, like Assy Wind and Darren Brown, and many more. Now, for the ad copy. It begins as a simple card castle, but ends with you effortlessly defying gravity. You will rewrite the laws of the universe with Angelo Carbone's On Edge. Here's what happens. You build a house of cards. You build tension by methodically removing cards, one at a time. Just when you think it'll come crashing down like pulling the bottom block of a shaky Jenga tower, your house of cards will impossibly teeter on a single point. The laws of gravity momentarily suspended. Even as a performer, every instinct within you will scream that this should not be possible. And yet somehow, your house of cards will dance on a knife's edge. Under your full control, an effortless touch from you will reignite gravity. The fragile house of cards comes cascading down in a visually stunning finish, a fitting finale to a surreal performance. Unmatched features of On Edge. No scale required. On Edge is even easier to build than an ordinary house of cards. Any surface becomes your stage. Just use any non-slip surface and you're ready to begin defying gravity. Learn it immediately. Begin practicing right out of the box with no setup. Ambidextrous design, suitable for both right-handed or left-handed users. Perform fully surrounded, mesmerize an audience from all angles. Discover a space where your limitation breaks reality, where you'll find yourself defiantly standing on edge. That's honest. I forgot to mention you can do this whether you're left or right-handed. And what's great about this is, yeah, you'll fool yourself when you're doing it, especially the first few times you're performing the trick. You're going to think, oh, this is going to come crashing down. And it's so satisfying to get down. What is the cost of On Edge? It costs $85 US. That's a lot of money. Is this worth your money? The trick is quite expensive for the materials of what you get. You get 15 gimmicked cards you use to perform the effect. The cards are very well made. As I said, I think it's a bit expensive for the materials. However, for the amazement of the effect and for the theory and all the work Angelo and Murphy's have put into this product, I understand the price. It's not outrageously overpriced. I think it could have been around 75 to 80 US. And if they added a whole thing of the material that you use to repair the gimmick eventually, that would have definitely helped out a lot. However, this is a beautiful piece of visual puzzling magic. What are the pros and cons of On Edge? The pros are this trick is very impossible. The tutorial covers everything you need to know. This works great on stage, and it's a great piece of illusion. The trailer and ad copy are honest. You can perform completely surrounded. There shouldn't be any lighting or clothing restrictions. The presentation can be changed to fit your performing style. You get very well-made, crazy gimmicked cards. I've never seen gimmicked cards like this. The method is revolutionary. The packaging's nice. This works real well in real life and on social media. And also, 8 of the 15 cards can be examined by lay people, 8 of the 15 cards. Now, what are the cons of this trick? There are no live performances in the tutorial. There is a learning curve for this effect. You'll want to practice it quite a bit. And there's a bit of DIY, and the material can break, possibly mid-performance if you're not being delicate. And if not done right, the cards could fall mid-performance. What percent do I give this? On Edge by Angelo Carbone gets a 95%. It's really awesome. Angelo has been on an absolute tear this year. And go check out some of my other reviews of Angelo Carbone products, and I'll see you there.